Hi, everybody. Good evening, and welcome back to another live stream. I just finished playing that guitar intro there, so my fingers are a bit sore, but hope you enjoyed it. I mean, we play it live, honest. So, a warm welcome wherever you're watching this, basically. Thanks very much for being here. Whether you're on the Gettrs, the Rumbles, the BrandNewTubes, the even the YouTubes. Yeah, wherever you are, thanks very much for being here. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. And we've got a really interesting hour ahead of us. Don't forget, the daily podcasts are available. Link below. There you go. Don't forget to make sure you subscribe to those, obviously. If you want to support the platform, buy me a coffee. Link below. Or if you don't want to use that, drop $1 or £1 in the donor box and help us fight back against the big media lying swamp, including YouTube. So so if you could do those things, that's great. A quick number of hellos. Hello, Leslie. Good to see you, my friend. Obviously, Northern Monkey, Tommy, all the guys, Gorgon Knight, Iber, Chris, Dave. Thank you very much for being here. Now listen. There's lots of things I could talk about. I was thinking about doing my impersonation of Klaus Schwab. But I put a little video out in that one earlier, a little 2-minute video. Hi, North Gettr, good to see you as well. Big shout out, by the way. If anybody's on Truth Social, guess what? So am I. So look me out, David Vance 1 on Truth Social. So we are continuing to expand. Hello to our Florida. You see, the thing about this stream, and I'll introduce our friends in a sec, but we do. It's great to so many people from so many different parts of the world. It never ceases to blow me away. Hello, Leslie Butler. Good to see you as well, and John and whatnot. And Claude. So many good friends. Reliable people who always turn up. So thank you for your support. It means a tremendous amount. And actually, we do need to support each other. And that means we need to support each other's platforms as well. So I was very pleased a number of weeks back to be invited on to have a chat with the guys, Stan and Dan from Voice of Wales. And I was really enjoyed it and thought that it would be nice if they could come on to this platform with me. So we can all have a chat together. I see a few people asking, but how did you get on? How did you get in Truth Social? Well, there are ways and means, my friends. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to say what they are because that would give the game away. But anyway, I'm on it. I'm on it. So I just need Trump to follow me now, and that's it all sorted out. Right. That's enough of this nonsense, so this malarkey. So without further ado, let's bring on the stream our special guest for this evening, and that is the guys from Voice of Wales, Dan and Stan. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good to see you guys. As I say, I really enjoyed being on your stream, and so I really value you taking the time out to be on this one. Oh, by the way, we've had our usual Hawaiian. Look at this. How exotic are we in this channel? Donnie Girl, one of our regulars, all the way from Aloha from Hawaii. So yeah, we're all
Aloha.
all over the world. But and hi Kim, all the usual guys. Thanks for being here. As I said, I could have talked about so much. Could have talked about the World Economic Forum, guys. I'm sure you saw that today, did you? Actually, what do you make of that?
Is that with Jack? Because Jack's been detained, isn't he? Jack the Soviet. So
Kozo has been. Well, I think they released him now, but apparently, But did you see what he was doing? He was actually just filming. I think at the entrance to, wherever the thing was being held. Real Nazis.
But it certainly appears the issue with journalism and being filmed is global as well as every other issue. It seems, doesn't it? It seems all in uniform. Strange.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Avi Amini, and he went up to one of the guests who were invited in.
They were a reporter, weren't they?
Reporters from the New
York Times.
And of course, they said nothing to him because.
I think everyone's picked up on Jack getting detained. I can see the comments coming in the streams here. So Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating what's going on. Well, listen, guys. So let's start off at the top of the show. I want to talk about whales, actually, because I'm really interested. But monkeypox. Can I ask, have either of you gentlemen got it yet? Has Wales got its first monkeypox patient yet? What's happening?
Well, I have definitely been eating more banana bread. That's been a thing that's been new since the lockdown and stuff. There's a lot of banana bread going around, and I have, increased my uptake. So is that a symptom? I don't know. Yeah. Maybe in the future.
I think an unnatural liking for excessive bananas, a desire to want to, swing from the branches of a tree. I think these are some of the, although some people don't have any symptoms and they're called symptomatic. I'm sure you saw that one, didn't you?
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think what I really love about it is the reaction to it. Like it's a totally different reaction to what we saw at the start of the COVID. You saw at the start of COVID, you saw people genuinely worried, genuinely scared. Now all you're seeing is Snapchats with people with monkey faces on. So there is I see a definite, complete opposite attitude towards this than there was to COVID. But I do feel they're still trying to paint it as the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the memes have instantly come out, instant meme warfare against it because of the ridiculousness of it. And people are laughing about it. And there's lots of good jokes about it. But the thing is, though, that I don't know, but what do you think? Do you think they're going to try and push this as COVID 2.0? Or what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at it, David, what they've done is this happened to have come out on the very week or just before the very week where they're going to try and give powers to an unelected body called the World Health Organization.
World Economic Forum,
or AKA the World Economic Forum. And have that mass surveillance that the CCP have trialed in their own country. One camera per person in every public space, and they can watch you all the time. And that's scary.
Yeah. So as you say, guys, you can laugh at it at one level because at one level it is ridiculous, but at another level, I think the people pushing it are, they've got that agenda. Clearly, they've got an agenda, and I think the one thing, actually going back to COVID at the very beginning, the thing that sort of struck us about COVID was fear. People were scared. Understandably so, and that probably, I think nearly everybody was at least for 3 weeks. But then after that, sorry, not interested.
Yeah.
But in this one, I just wonder. My theory is this. Tell me what you think. I reckon if you're still wandering around wearing masks and you can't wait to get your 4th inoculation, I reckon you're probably petrified of monkeypox. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I see, it's exactly that. There's going to be a lot of people who are still, living the COVID dream, so to say, because I do feel now they are just doing it to feel virtuous. I think a lot of people are. It's just a sign of, look how good I am. I'm still protecting people and stuff like that. But I do think that they are going to react the same as well. Because I do, a lot of people, I think, didn't really believe so much, but they still try to enforce it, like more to do with the left-wing side of things. I bet they wouldn't admit it, but they knew masks, maybe not so much, but they'll still enforce it because that's what their politicians are enforcing. So they just go along and they just enact it, like the far groups, like Stand Up to Racism and stuff. They're all there, they're all masked up every time, aren't they?
Well, that's for a different reason. That's when they break the law, isn't it? And they don't.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, David, that Dan pointed out only the other day. Look at those children; they've got masks on. Children, and they were
4 years old,
4 or 5 years of age.
Yeah.
What kind of a society are we bringing our children up in?
Top comment from Ibersteller: if they force lockdowns for monkeypox, the people will go ape. Boom, boom.
Excellent.
As I said, I mean, we're laughing at it, and rightly so. But did you guys see that? I think the European Union earlier today. Did you see the statement that they put out saying they're on high alert and that they're monitoring the whole thing, and that I think it is kind of like, you know, what you got to say, if you test positive for monkeypox, how do you do that test then? I'm wondering, is that the temp? Here's a banana, go on.
Yeah. If you just can't withstand it, that's definitely positive.
The first thing,
if you test positive, it's 21 days. I mean, this is where it gets scary. 21 days isolation, and by the way, they're working on a vaccine, or they've got a vaccine, I think, for it, which is the smallpox one. I mean, that makes you think, doesn't it?
It certainly does. But the point is, and it's a serious one, that we've got to get rid of this SAGE group, because Ferguson for Wales, Atherton, and Morgan and Gethin for Wales, they got it wrong consistently, and they were being paid big bucks. They scared the hell out of people. So people like Chris Whitty, Ferguson, what has he ever got right? I bet he even gets confused with his own front door.
These models are, I don't know why anybody ever judges anything by a model, because it's always worst case scenario. You know, it's the same as, you know, go back to Brexit. Remember Yellowhammer?
Yeah. You
know, it's the same. You know, you cross a road, worst case scenario is you get run over. Chances are you won't. But everything was based on the worst case scenario. And when those stats are being published to the public, who unfortunately still 80% of people will follow the news and go along with it. It's terrifying, you know, people, and you know, it is, I can understand why, if people do follow the news and go along with it, why they are terrified. There's some people who I know still haven't seen their parents, you know?
Yeah. No, we in Wales, David, have a separate health service, the Welsh NHS, for 3.5 million people in Wales. They failed spectacularly. Drakeford followed Sturgeon, so Sturgeon would do something, and Drakeford would then do the same thing with knobs on. So if she picked, I don't know, a fortnight, he picked 3 weeks. If she picked, you know, everyone's got to, the children have to be inoculated. Our kids have to be inoculated twice, and it was dreadful. But I commented to you earlier that Drakeford in Wales just points to Westminster all the time. He holds no responsibility, and as a consequence of that, we are not going to get a public inquiry into what went wrong with the pandemic.
Even
a scandal.
Even though he boasts about how well the Welsh government handled the pandemic, so he openly admits that they handled it differently to Westminster. But when it comes to an independent inquiry, he says, "Well, no, this is a UK national thing, and it will come under that." And there is a group, okay? There's a group on Twitter. I can't remember what they're called, but it is something like, you know, we call him for a Welsh independent inquiry. Messaged them a few times. Unfortunately, groups sometimes might not like to talk to us because then they get the far left mobs attacking them. But you know, there are groups out there who are, you know, trying to push for this, but it just falls on deaf ears, you know, apparently.
I mean, just on the media for 1 second, I think that, as you guys were saying, you know, the media itself is so corrupted, so utterly corrupted, that it's so important that voices like yours are heard. So I would urge anyone who's listening to this and who doesn't follow these guys, make sure you do follow Voice of Wales. I think I know you're on Gettr, obviously. Are you on Twitter?
Yes. No, we have, you know, we set up small little accounts so we can every now and again poke an MP or poke a councillor, but you know, nothing worth following. It's mainly Gettr. You know, Gettr is, you know, the funny thing about, you know, we're in a massive honeymoon period with Gettr because we never got the honeymoon period with YouTube. As we were about to, you know, take off, thanks to BBC and that, you know, we got chopped straight away because of the Welsh government. But, you know, so we're experiencing that now on Gettr, and it's brilliant. I absolutely love it.
Imagine, David, imagine that the First Minister, the Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, the
Leader of Plaid Cymru,
the Leader of Plaid Cymru, and Lord
Peter Hain,
all wrote and protested to YouTube to get us removed. That's so you know that when you're over the target.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
We had 5,000 subscribers at the time, you know, so it's so small. It's so small, but that's the point, you know. It's literally a toe out the line, and you feel the full weight in Wales.
And that's why I think, guys, one of the things you're doing a great job on Gettr with your live streams is I mean, your work ethic's really good. You're putting out so much content, and the difference between, if I may say, what you guys are doing and what 99.99% of the mainstream media is doing is you're letting other voices get out there, and you're asking questions and you're challenging things, and that should be embraced by the likes of YouTube. But of course, it's not. But the reason is because YouTube obviously is politically controlled and whatnot. I mean, the fact that I'm on it is a miracle. But then, to be fair, they took me off. They did descend upon me on Twitter to remove me from that. I was polluting Twitter by saying the truth. There you go. But
you know, if you were accused of polluting Twitter, you know, that's really, because it'll take a lot to pollute Twitter. You know, that place is an absolute swamp.
It's not possible.
You were polluting it with bleach.
Yeah.
Listen, Elon Musk needs to defumigate Twitter. It needs to be cleansed of all the vermin that infest that platform. And I don't believe that's possible. Do you think he can do it? Do you think Twitter?
Well, I'll never go back to Twitter. I'll keep that little account and poke every now and again, but I'll never dedicate, because you know what it's like. If you've got a number of different social media platforms, it is hard, on top of all of them all of the time. So, you prioritize certain ones, and Twitter, it's not, I don't think it's worth the time anymore. If he does sort it out and make it a fair platform, then we can look at it again. But I don't hold much hope. It's already terminal, I think.
Do you not think he's pulled a fast one by now wanting to find out how many fake accounts there are?
Oh yeah, I do.
I think
I love what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. I am loving what Elon is doing. With Twitter, just for the the headlines and the tweets alone, it's worth the money he spent. I can say that because it's not my money, but
he's trying. Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to spend 44 billion to annoy people, he's annoying all the right people. He definitely is.
Absolutely.
I'm loving that. I'm loving the fact that he does appear to be turning against the hard, nasty left, which make Twitter a hellhole anyway. Can I just say hello to my friend Frida? Frida, nice to see you on the stream as well. And by the way, guys, I've been asked, are you on Odyssey? Can your work be found on Odyssey? Yeah,
we are on Odyssey as well. Yeah, just Voice of Wales.
Yep. So there you go, guys. You can get them on Odyssey as well. So listen, okay. So
there was a comment that just came up about Plaid Cymru and the Conservatives in Wales. So let's get that straight. Plaid Cymru are terrorist enablers. They are sisters with Sinn Féin, and of course the bombing campaign that happened within Wales. They've never apologised for it. They never will apologise. And of course, they're in bed and in cahoots with the Labour Party, because both of them are trying to now stitch up the next enlargement of the Senedd. So the Senedd is our Welsh Assembly, and in order for small independent parties to get in, you have to poll around 6% to get seats. Yeah, there's been a stitch up with Labour and Plaid Cymru, and now the next 34 members of the Senedd. In order for small parties to get in, you'll have to poll 17% of the vote. So it's a complete stitch up, and those extra people are going to cost a minimum of £7.5 million a year. Thank you, England, because you'll be paying for it.
No, I know. Actually, just on that, can I ask you guys a simple question? For as long as the Northern Ireland Assembly has been in place, I campaigned against it. I opposed devolution then. I still do. I don't need toy-toying third-rate politicos, influencing my life. What was your views of that Welsh devolution referendum that they manipulated back in the day? Well, what did you think about that?
It's really funny, because this very same people who say that the margin wasn't big enough on Brexit are the ones who say, but there was a referendum on the the Welsh devolution, and it was something like 50.1 or 50.3%. So it's just ironic how these people, at the end of the day, what goes through goes through. But what I know from it is it wasn't sold as what it is.
The
Same
size,
as everything.
The size of 3 large comprehensive schools decided the fate of Wales. That's it. That's how small the margin was. 6,500 votes. That's it.
Here, I know because we're on YouTube, we're not allowed to criticize American elections, but I think we can potentially challenge Welsh elections. So, do you think that was legit, that result back in the day?
We're working on a documentary. It's a Voice of Wales exclusive. It's called 200 Pigs. So we're going to examine the Welsh elections and we're going to see what's going on. So you heard it here first.
300 pigs coming your way from Voice of Wales. There you go.
Should have called it 200 sheep, but you know.
The thing is, David, that they threw this. It was a second referendum. They threw millions at it, and Blair was determined to devolve power.
He was,
and so that's what happened. It was a rigged election. That's what happened. Yep. And now the democracy minister is determined to keep the vote as low as it is, because of course they get in on a low vote. So the last elections was less than 46%
turned out.
Yeah, you know, how can you call that democracy? 46% of which 31%. Sorry,
30%.
30% were Labour voters.
Yeah. So it's, you know, I always say on the lives that we do, it's the majority of a minority that voted, and they're happy for that. And you know, they are, I think, a little bit concerned that people in Wales are getting a little bit fed up with their politics. So what they do then is make Wales a nation of sanctuary, where, you know, doors open, anyone welcome. They also then give them the vote, because foreign nationals can vote in Wales now, and they lowered the age to 16, where we know the schools in Wales are all pretty much indoctrination camps, where, you know, if you are listening in school and you're paying attention to what the teacher's telling you, you're coming out and voting Labour. You know, as simple as that.
And I know that will ring with a lot of your people that watch your streams in the United States. The Democrats now are rigging the next election by plugging massive immigration into the country, and of course they will vote Democrat.
Well, or will they? Or will they? Because there's a lot of stats coming out. I watch a lot from the Lotus Eaters and Carl Benjamin as well. Sagan McCad did the podcast on it, and it would appear that that's not even the case. A lot of them are saying, "Well, why would we want to ruin a place that we've just moved to or got into?" So that could be flipping on its head anyway. But you know, I guess you have to watch the space on that one.
I saw a comment came up there from our friend Blitzer. Vaughn what's it? Vaughn
Gettr.
He's Wales's WEF appointed future viceroy. Is he a WEF guy? Getting.
I suppose they all are by now, and
well, he is something beginning with W, David.
Yeah. Well, listen. There was a story that caught my eye the other day, and I shared it with you guys. I'm sure you've seen it, thought anyway. But we just bring it up on screen because this kind of stunned. Sometimes I think nothing can shock me, and then I read a story a bit like this, and it just took my breath away. Almost 10,000 people were incorrectly offered the spring booster vaccination in Wales. And then this Harridan, who's on the screen here, who I'm not, you can pronounce her name. I can't pronounce that name.
Yeah, Ellen Morgan. Ellen Morgan, yeah.
She turns around and says, well, it was I shouldn't, we probably incorrect, but hey, we're going to go ahead with it anyway. So what the hell's, what's going on with your, because she's the health minister, isn't she? What's going on there?
Yeah, so Vaughn Gettr, the failed health minister of the last election, has been promoted to now ruin the economy, which somebody else ruined before COVID. And so we've now got this reckless woman who's been banned from driving. And of course Drakeford says, well, she's not going to get sacked because they didn't make the laws. Westminster did.
But you know,
you can't make it up, David.
What? Yeah.
But that article, you know, that's the point. That is the point that I picked out of that article. Okay, then, okay, is it, you know, you know, just not try not to skip around it too much. Was it a mistake that these 10,000 went out? Because the thing that clicked with me is that paragraph there. Ellen Morgan said the Welsh government will go ahead with the vaccinating those who have been offered the spring booster.
Anyway, yeah.
So that's the thing that bothered me, is the fact, you know, that's what put the doubt in my mind, is that if it was a mistake, they could have easily replied to them all, or when they tried to book it, tell them, oh, sorry, it was a mistake, you don't need it. But instead, they've gone ahead and said, oh, yeah, you can have it anyway. You know, oh, lucky you, you're this week's winner. You know, so I think, I don't believe that it was a mistake. But that's just me being maybe cynical.
No, maybe not. Maybe you're being clear-sighted, because one of the things about COVID that I think is probably we all see in different ways. We see it here in Northern Ireland because it's demonstrated the absolute lamentable state of the NHS here, the politicos who overlook it, who are hopeless. Just again, WEF stooges fundamentally, and I think it's bad here. But then you guys just say what you've said, and I'm thinking, my God, Wales is
Wales is worse. We've got So this is the position. I've just told you that Gettr was the health minister, and he presided over. We've got you ring for 999 ambulances, and nearly every week you get a 7-hour wait or a 9-hour wait for a 999 ambulance call. They're closing down accidents and emergencies. We built the the Dragonheart Hospital at a cost of billions, and as soon as it was built, we started to dismantle it. Wouldn't it have been better to build 20-odd portable wards and mothball them outside the hospitals and just mothball them and train up the staff? And it would have been a hell of a lot cheaper. We've been giving beds abroad. We've been sending beds abroad, and we've been burning PPE by the thousands, by the skipful, because we got it wrong, and nobody's going to be held accountable. Now they've assaulted children. That's an assault, isn't it? If you jab somebody and it's a mistake, that's an assault, isn't it? That should go before a court.
Well, the thing is, nobody seems to be held responsible. You know, at Westminster, in Cardiff, in Belfast, in Edinburgh, nobody's responsible. Nobody is responsible. And yes, Leslie Butler, I agree. We can't say it out loud because we're on the YouTubes, and the commissars of YouTube will become actually multiple times at the minimum. With the super duper 100% safe, 100% effective vaccine, right, YouTube? So we've got. Don't worry, guys. We've got their number. We've got YouTube's number.
Well, can we have it? Because we've been trying to get hold of them for about 2.5 years now.
I use telepathy myself, you know. But so I mean, that story, I read that. I think I even did a short podcast thinking, how horrible must things be in Wales in terms of your political representatives? And then that brings me to the next thing, because I followed the recent elections in the UK, the assembly elections here in Northern Ireland, local council in England and in Wales and in Scotland. And, you know, so what's all this about? David sounds very similar to Davros, creator of the Daleks. What are you trying to say to? What are you trying to say to me, Blitzer? Right, that's a permanent life ban for you. My good So talk us through what exactly happened, because it looked to me like Labour did really well, and that the Tories done really badly. And well, I don't know. What's your interpretation of what happened in Wales a couple of weeks back?
Well, people aren't engaged in politics. That's my opinion. You know, we've been out campaigning, you know, for a number of different reasons, and you know, Brexit being one, elections, whether we are standing, you know, the European election, all these different things. We've been out, and the I would say go-to response is, what's the point of voting? It doesn't change anything.
Same here.
You know, and it's really sad because. Not voting doesn't change anything. If you want to be completely accurate, if you don't vote, nothing will change. It's as simple as that. But I just don't think people have any trust whatsoever in politicians.
I mean, the electioneering of the Labour Party, stroke, and their political partners, Wales Online, the mouthpiece, Lord Haw Haw, just before the elections, suddenly they find £750 that they can give to healthcare workers and social workers and nurses throughout the country. It's amazing. They just there it is behind the sofa, and they give that to every one of them tax free. So that's one.
How close to the election was that as well?
It was 1 week before the official timelines of the elections, and they did it for you can't write this stuff. This is absolutely so you've got that. Then of course you've got their supposed not allied to us, hate not hope, and stand up for racism. And also, Plaid have got their
cottage burners.
They've got their
Yes Cymru organisation as well. And what they do is they then smear candidates that are standing. But of course, it's not attached to the Labour Party, but it just happens to be in a Labour seat where somebody's standing. And this goes on, and of course you bring. Well, we've got a perfect example of that, haven't we? We've got twice actually. One was you, but we won't. We've talked about that one before. But the most recent one in the most recent elections in Pembroke Dock, there's a councillor called Paul Dowson. Now, Paul Dowson, he basically didn't bend the knee for Black Lives Matter. He said that he doesn't agree with what the principle of the organization, and evidently he was absolutely correct, because you can look at everything now and you can see they're paying their family millions, for a laugh, So he was absolutely right. But because he did that, there has been a 2-year attack, and it's from different accounts, fake accounts, stand up to racism. When it came to election time, the area that he's standing in, the ward he was standing for, they went round and fired every single house with false information about Paul, and he came last.
Yeah, they actually associated him to Nazis. That's how bad this leaflet was. And the police said that if you believed it to be true when you printed it, there's nothing they can do. So that's the issue. In Wales, you've got 4 police forces. And it's smaller than the size of Greater Manchester, who's got 1 police force. Within those districts, those 4 districts, you've got 3 ex-Labour MPs and a Plaid Cymru. So they're the police and crime commissioners. And of course, like I said to you before, everything is stitched up. They turn around and say, it's nothing to do with us. It's Westminster for Home Office stuff. But yet the Police and Crime Commissioner each year runs political campaigns, so that you've now got the police that turn out looking like LGBTQ trans nearly every month. Well, they paint the nails and paint the heads and paint the helmets. Yeah.
And the public displays of affection. I don't know if you saw that one in London, but there was 2 people in uniform, and they were
petting,
making out, whatever you want to call it these days, while they're on the Pride parade. The police is another topic altogether, I think. But this is what it is. And Richard Taylor, I just want to point out in the comments, if the amount of people who didn't voted, it would overturn the establishment. It would, and that is so true. I hope you're enjoying your holiday, Rich.
Richard, I see Richard's also said giving 16-year-old and foreign nationals the right to vote and cooperation agreement keeps them in power. I suppose that's true, isn't it? I mean, that's
absolutely. Yeah. He's just cementing his position.
Yeah,
it won't be long until he declares it that he can't be unelected.
I mean, it's Kim Young Drakeford.
Yeah. I've been calling him that for ages, Kim Young, because again, you look at this drab. He's the most unimpressive political leader in the UK of any of the 4 parties. I'm not saying some, because I know we got Cranky up in Scotland, and we've got whatever sort of a hybrid mess you could imagine over here. But for all that, I mean, he dresses so. How can anyone dress so badly all the time?
Yeah, unless he's in a Diwali party. So he's in his top brass when he's in his Diwali party. But yeah, that's exactly it. He's got, if you could say anything about Sturgeon, at least she's passionate. She's totally wrong, I believe, in what she believes. But she is passionate about what she believes. I have never seen anything. The most animated I've ever seen Mark Drakeford is when you confronted him, because he went on the BBC and called us a threat to modern day Wales, which is great because we hate modern day Wales. That isn't Wales. But you put that question back to him, and he lost his rag.
He lost his rag.
He really lost his rag.
Mr. Waggy Finger.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I think I saw footage of that. I think, yeah. I mean, but how does someone like that rise to become First Minister? Explain that.
Do you know if anybody can explain that?
I'm sorry, before you do that, if in the background, hopefully we can pick up, see if we can find an image of the glorious Kim Jong Drakeford, first glorious Emperor of Wales. See if we can find that. Right, back to you guys.
Yeah.
Explain.
I bet he's wearing a white shirt with a red tie and a grey suit.
Yeah.
Glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet jumper and jogging bottoms.
How did he get there? I actually do not know.
That's the question. That is the question. If you got that answer, then you know what's going wrong. But nobody knows. It's just people vote Labour. That is it.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably because if you went into a room, he would probably be the one that you say, "Oh, I bet he's an undertaker," or I'll bet he's a taxidermist. Something like that. And so he is the least offensive in the room, so they picked him. That's it. There's nothing because there's nothing special about him. I think he's got an IQ of a banana.
Well, there's absolutely nothing special about him. What was he before? He's a prison warden.
No,
or a probation officer. Probation officer. And his son's in prison for rape.
Yeah.
So failed.
So he's if you can judge him by anything.
Let's bring this giant up on the screen. Let's bring him up so everyone can see him. Here we have. Oh look, Radical's photo on the right hand side with the black tie. On the left hand side, he's got that ubiquitous red tie with his white shirt. Look at him. Yeah. What can I say? It's and not that I can talk. I mean, Northern Ireland's as bad in different ways, but he's just he looks like he's the sort of guy who lights up a room simply by leaving it. I think that's the line in that.
Absolutely. I once actually tried to get him to count, and he saw me and he was walking around the tables, so I could never catch up to him.
Right.
That's the loathing that I bring to him.
He knows our name. That's what I love. He knows our name by first name. I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
You guys have obviously put some heat on feelings, but like the thing that gets me as well is, again, you tell us, like the Welsh NHS seems to be like really bad, and like the NHS is bad, but the Welsh NHS seems to be particularly bad. How is this?
It will be because of course it's run by the unions. This area is everything is run by the unions. So you think of a normal working pace and cut it by a half, and that's what it is. I think we produced during COVID more TikTok dances and videos than any other part of the United Kingdom. And I have to say that Richard Taylor has been an absolute stalwart in trying to shine light into this cesspit that is the Senedd. And he's had his attackers and abusers. This is what they do. They gang up and they try and snuff out any opposition whatsoever. They call you all kinds of names, so that and it gets to a point where somebody will say, "Oh, you're bigots, aren't you?" And you say, "Well, what have we said, or what have we done?" Or you pick on the little people.
Yeah, that was the recent one.
That was the recent one. We pick on the little people. Well, actually, we've been trying to defend people that have been being cut by female genital mutilation, babies that are being cut. Female genital mutilation, not one prosecution. And the issue is now, David, that people in Europe are bringing their children over to the UK
to Wales
because they know that they won't get prosecuted, whereas in France they get prosecuted.
So, and that's happening. The FGM is happening in Wales.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I know it happens in England as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in South Wales, we've been trying to get a lot of information now for about
2 years.
2 years, and it's you just don't get it. You've got to go to so many different departments and ask so many. But we know, thanks to South Wales Police, who did give us some information accidentally, that during lockdown, I believe it was like over 200 children under the age of 2 in South Wales alone, or South Wales Health Board. So, and that means it's during lockdown, no flights, you can't go anywhere. It's happening locally. Yeah. So that's the problem. But the NHS, what's wrong with the NHS?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, Dan said that they reluctantly gave us that information. They did because they managed to take the email back off my computer.
Yeah.
So I think it was sent in error.
Yeah.
But by then,
crap, we didn't send it, did you?
By then I'd sent it to Dan and our team.
Oh, good. Yeah. You could preserve it. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is that we've got I think it's 7 health boards, and we don't need 7 health boards. We just don't need them. We've got Withybush Accident and Emergency, which is on right at the end of West Wales. They're going to close, and that means that when you dial 999, hopefully, if you get an ambulance there within half an hour, you've then got an hour and a half, 2 hours to get that person to Swansea, the nearest A&E. It's just a
Carmarthen. It'd be Carmarthen show, wouldn't it? So yeah,
it's just a scandal what's going on, David. An absolute scandal that's going on.
And yet the party that presides over it all picked up council seats.
The party did because, of course, again, part of their scheme. When you're talking about bins and lights and roads, they're talking about Partygate and Boris. Or they're talking about the NHS and not the
I got you. Yeah,
and in fact, the socialists in Swansea, I go down at about 1:30 on a Saturday just to give them a good ribbing because every week they stand there with Boris Johnson's cutting the NHS. Yeah. So when you go up and try and have a chat with them, well, they now know me, so they actually turn around. They won't even show their faces or speak to me anymore. But this is the great scam that's happening in Wales. They point everywhere else.
And then, as you say, the guy that Gething that's presided over that, he's now got the economy now. That's his new turret then? So. So that's your economy screwed then, isn't it, basically?
Even worse than it was.
The problem is, David, that what we've got, Drakeford and the cabinet want a universal wage paid. They want want you to own nothing and be happy. They want you to be fully vaccinated and fully traceable. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that begins from education. From the age of 3, they're going to be telling you that you've got 200 and odd genders and you how to not masturbate at that age.
What masturbation is. It's the LGBT lessons.
It's the LGBT lessons. And of course, you'll know the old Jesuit saying, give me a baby and they'll be Catholic for the rest of their lives. Yeah. And that's what they're doing. They are turning this country into non-thinkers. Because, of course, if you raise the question about, I don't know, anything.
Look at the girls. Perfect example. Public Child Protection Wales. They're taking the Welsh government to court over this mandatory sex education, and it is mandatory. And if you try to challenge your child being in that, you are the one that's going to get reported. So that's the type of power and control. But because they're trying to call it out, these girls are professionals. Kim alone is more qualified than every single person in that Senate put together, without a doubt.
Including the Education Minister now and the Education Minister former.
And she's taken them to court over this sex education. And but leading up to that, she's felt, the full weight. She's been taken to court. So it is literally step up the line, you're facing the full weight, even though she is absolutely justified to do what she's doing in a democracy. She's not doing anything wrong. But she's doing what the Welsh government should have. She's raising awareness. type of stuff happens in Wales with no public consultation whatsoever. People don't know.
This is how bad it is, David. So the girls were taken to court for COVID breaches, okay, gathering in a public place more than 25. They actually were found innocent by a judge. But the months leading up to that, it's stress, it's worry, because these people have not been in trouble. You know, most of them.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So me and Dan, the same thing. We were put on COVID lockdown watch list, weren't we? And yet the lawmakers in this country, in Wales, broke the law by having drinks in the Senedd. At 3 days after they'd said no alcohol to be served to any member of the public. The Swansea South Wales Police have not issued them with a fine, a fixed penalty fine. We've got a First Minister that goes to Diwali parties and dances the night away when the rest of us were locked up, and yet he hasn't had a ticket from the police. Is that called impartial, or is that called a Stasi?
Shocking! It is shocking. I do remember I think it was in June of 2020. So a couple of months into, just after lockdown, I remember going to my local garden centre, and I posted a selfie of myself, no mask, on I refused to wear masks.
Yeah.
And that was at 2:00 in the afternoon. I nipped into the garden centre, picked up a few bits, came back home. 3 hours later, the gate rang, and two of Her Majesty's finest were there to have a word with me about this post that I'd put up. And so 3 hours. Now I can tell you, see, if you were robbed, you wouldn't see them for 3 days. 3 hours. Oh yeah, that's fine, Mr. Vance. Oh, well, can you just confirm this is you? Yes. Can you confirm you do understand the regulations? Yes, officer. Do you? Which of course they didn't. So that was the good bit. But it's amazing, isn't it? The way that the state it seems to happen in Ireland as well, the Republic of Ireland. Yeah. I've got friends like my friend Gemma O'Doherty. She's treated atrociously by the state, her and John Waters, because they've spoken up and tried to expose the shenanigans, shall we call it, that goes on. And that's the truth. All you're going to get for your efforts to shine light, guys, is hassle. You're going to get hassle. It's just what we have to do, isn't it? Because if we don't, who will do it?
Yeah, and we were lucky because we've been around long enough. We were sort of activists, say, leading up to Brexit. We were out campaigning on the streets with boards and stuff on the bottom of the roads. But on top of all that, when we then go start highlighting certain things like the lockdown things, we were getting ticket after ticket after ticket. We'd have the police banging the door, midnight, midnight, twice a day, guaranteed once a day to try and get in touch with us. But because we'd seen it all and we knew what was going to happen, we had gone to the Welsh government already and said to them, we're journalists, we're registered, which we are, and are we able to travel as working journalists in Tier 4 lockdown? And they came back directly to us saying, yes, you are. So that trumped absolutely everything that any police force in Wales could do. But despite having all that, they still wanted to pressurize. Yeah. Yes. 6 court cases, they dropped them all, one of them the day before. But, we were lucky because we were prepared. But, there's a lot of people who not even aren't prepared, but they're not prepared for what the backlash is. We got a court case coming up soon.
We've got a court case coming up. The thing is, David, that you've got the First Minister who hates our guts. You've got 4 police and crime commissioners who know of us, and we've got 4
and hate our guts.
We've got 4 police chiefs of police who also hate our guts, and so we're on somebody's totem pole, and eventually they're going to not catch us, get us on trumped up charges. That's the country I live in. That's Wales. Yeah.
I think I'm seeing lots of different comments, guys. There's a lot of support I can see here for what you're doing, given all of that. It's really quite shocking to because this is why I wanted to do this, because as I say, people elsewhere in the UK don't get, I think, the sheer draconianism. I know. I mean, I might joke about Kim Jong Drakeford, but I don't live under his jackboot. But
it's not even. It's not even that, David. So we decided a couple of days ago, and thanks to Richard Taylor, we had an event pulled, and we decided to do the event outside. And Richard and the other guests,
Bish, Paul
Dowson, and Caton were brilliant. It was as if nothing had happened, and we carried on outside the event. So on the back of that,
should touch on that a little bit first, though. So the event itself, we do £3 a ticket answer time, and it's the equivalent to question time. But our lovers on the left, the stand up to racism lot, they pay to buy a ticket to find out the venue 24 hours before, to get the address put out there, so then bombard it with phone calls and emails. Like, we were in the venue, we were all set up, and they were like, you got to go. They're saying there's going to be hundreds of them down here. If we don't cancel it, you got to go. So we went, but we did it right outside. Right outside the venue.
And none of them turned up.
None of them turned up. But it's the pressure.
None of them turned up.
But that's the brown shirts. They did it with cinema.
That's the brown shirts. But the point is, David, that we then decided that we're going to now take our brand. We're going to take it on a road show. We're going to do street preaching from the back of a monster truck that one of our followers is helping us with, and we're going to do that. But also, we went out into the city of Swansea to hand out leaflets, and guess what happened? Old school leafleting. The Stasi wardens came up, and they were wagging the fingers, and they were on the radios.
Have you booked in?
Have you booked in? You can't do that.
In the middle of Swansea city centre, public area.
Yeah, and you had street preachers there. You had the left there on the day before, and yet they pounced on Voice of Wales. But guess what? We won't give up, and we'll keep on doing it.
We love it. We really do love it. That it is. It's really the stereotypical thing to say, I suppose. But people say this sort of stuff makes me keep on going. This sort of stuff, really, we enjoy it. We hope that when we go out, they're going to give us a little bit of grief, because it just exposes themselves, and people like the footage which exposes these people, because they are the violent ones, as far as what I've seen. I've never seen anybody. I've been to so many demos and stuff in London, wherever. I've never seen any violence from our side. It's plenty from there.
I think the thing about the left, the feral left, as I call them, the bit that they don't get is that, the more they attack us, the stronger it makes us, the more determined we become. They don't get that, because they're crybabies. They're running off to have a cry in the cupboard under the stairs. If you say boo to them, and you've hurt my feels. But because we got a bit of backbone to us. I see a comment there. Somebody saying, what's happening to you guys in Voice of Wales is what's been happening to the likes of, say, Tommy Robinson in England for years, because you're challenging guys, you're challenging authority, and that's where none of us are allowed to do that. But we're going to do it, aren't we? And we're not going to stop.
Absolutely. We literally live by old school journalist values, and it's we use it a lot. George Orwell's quote: "Journalism is printing something that someone else doesn't want you to print. Everything else is public relations," and that is, I love Orwell. The Orwell quotes. They are so, in time with today. And that is exactly it. There needs to be somebody that says, "Well, hang on, Mr. Policeman. There's loads of children under 2 years old that have been cut, and you've done nothing about it. Why? Hang on, Mr. Politician. Our city has gone to the dogs. You've got homelessness and drugs everywhere in Swansea, but you wanna make Swansea a city of sanctuary and invite everybody else. Can you answer some questions on that? But no, you talk about that, or you ask. We were put all over BBC because I said that's what Wales is going to become. If you've got a nation of sanctuary, Wales isn't going to be Wales anymore. It's going to become what Drakeford once, it would seem to be, a part of Africa, because that's what is arriving in Wales by the droves. And that is what Wales is going to become. But obviously for that, you're a racist, you're this, and that's what the BBC run with, accused of racism, literally with the quote marks, accused. So no proof, just accused of, by one or two people.
By unnamed people.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
I mean, someone saying they were persecuted by South Wales police and
Yeah.
libelled by the Welsh and British MSM for speaking truth to power and defending both libertarian and British values. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. That quote from Orwell is perfect, by absolutely perfect quote. That I think all of us feel that we probably Orwell was broadly speaking on the side we're on, but the difficulty is since 1948 to 2022, you've got social media, you've got the entire apparatus of a globalist state. So, for example, what your guys are saying about Wales, in the Irish Republic, it's exactly the same. They are determined to replace the Irish with the new Irish. But guess what? The new Irish don't come from Ireland. They come from the third world. And so it seems to be something that's happening across, because in England as well. Let's be honest about it.
The Western world.
Yeah, the West. I had a conversation about this with another person today, and we were just saying that it feels like the West, not the East, but the West, is committing cultural, moral, ethical, economic suicide. And the people like you guys that stand up and point it out, you get bludgeoned for going to the bother of pointing out the fact that this can't end well.
Yeah. Well, we know that, the police are itching to get us. We're lucky again and we have been lucky because we've been doing it quite a long time. We know quite a few people who are really handy to know, so to say. So we've got someone who guides us on the law, who makes sure that everything we do is 100% within the law. But when we go down the most recent one that we're on the 9th of June, we went down to report on someone who was trying to, I won't say too much because I know we're on YouTube, but they're trying to serve papers. I don't know if you remember when people started doing that, trying to serve papers on certain centres. We went down reporting on it. There was 3 people protesting. We were there reporting, and it had the chief.
It was unusual, David, because it was a chief inspector. Now they turn out when there's a terrorist event or murders, multiple murders. They don't turn out for anything else. They turned out for us. Yeah.
And then when they said, obviously, arrest them as well, because I was speaking, we all, we identify ourselves, we said to the police officer, and I don't want to say too much again because this has already been put out there, but, we told them, we're press, and she weren't going to do anything.
We had our logos on, we had our press
lanyards, company registration number on our IDs, and she wasn't going to touch us, but then the top dog said that they're not journalists, they're Voice of Wales, arrest them. So he knew who we were. But then later on that night, it was aggravated trespass was the arrest. And then later on that night, they further arrested us for fraud. They used this fraud charge. Yeah. So they said the protesters are using these documents. These documents were apparently fraudulent and being used to gain access fraudulently. But because we were with them, they charged us or arrested us for the same thing.
It was for the purpose of going into our houses.
They then, at 1:30 in the morning, I think they were, in our houses, trying to get our laptops and all our electronic equipment. Later on, then for that to be dropped, which it has, but we're in court for aggravated trespass. So, and 32 hours in the cell just for that. And that is it. That is literally punish them. And not just that. I'm sorry, I'm going on a little bit now. But when we spoke to our solicitor, he said, they don't like you boys, do they? And he was like, what do you mean? Well, you've got 15 officers on CID upstairs, and you've got something like 13 different groups of people downstairs, uniform, who are working this. He said, you don't get this amount of people who are working a case for murder. He said, they don't like you, do they? And why, imagine that amount of people.
And that was a solicitor that had never met us before.
No.
He was a duty solicitor, and that's the first thing he said when he saw us.
Wow. Yeah.
So they're desperate to find something because, we need to go to the gulag.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible. Someone's asking aggravated trespass. What is aggravated trespass? How is that different to ordinary trespass? James asked the question.
What it is aggravated trespass was designed for, do you know when these pop-up illegal raves went on in wooded area or private land or mills and things like that? So it's that. So the aggravated part of it was that, according to the police, it wasn't a public building at the time that they trespassed. It had been given over to the vaccine people.
But Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
That's it. We can't skate too much on this, but that bit's out already, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, we'll keep on saying exactly the same as what we've always said, and it's that we know we are totally innocent, and it's just another way of trying to slow us down. But they give us more content at the end of the day, because you know our next live show. Well, again, won't go into too much, but we are, you know, we've got big plans, you know, on the back of this.
I see some comments I just want to read out. I see Gareth is saying, you're taking flack, guys, because you're over the target. And that's true, actually. We all know that. You know, it's a strange feeling when you take the flack, and it's not, no one likes taking flack. And again, if we're being honest, nobody enjoys it. But it does show that you're dropping the truth bombs and they're landing where they need to land. And that is good. So another person saying, someone else said to me here, let me get this, Voice of Wales are the only right-wing presence in Wales. Obviously, the hard left Welsh establishment will go for them. Well, actually, I mean, just on that, I mean, Wales has Wales not always been kind of a lefty voting?
Well, it's always been Labour. It's always been Labour, isn't it? You know,
it's been old Labour, David,
and that's the point.
That's the difference. I mean, you would have seen it in the dockyards at Shorts and places like that in Northern Ireland. You know, and rightly so. You know, when you voted for a shop steward, he had segs on his hands, or an MP, he had scallops on his hands. He'd worked the mines, or he'd worked. And of course now, I think the latest figures for Westminster is 7% come from a manual background. The rest are all lawyers, traders, bankers, retired soldiers.
But it's, again, you know, that goes to whenever you're doing any campaigning in Wales, it's like, okay, why do you vote Labour? Oh, well, my father voted Labour, my grandfather voted Labour, and I always say, well, I guarantee you the Labour that there is today isn't the Labour they voted for. Because it isn't, but you know, the saying is, you know, put a red ribbon on a donkey and it'll win. Yeah, you know, and that'll be a good trial.
I mean, even the fact that we've got the worst NHS within the United Kingdom, we've got an education system that I think is below, or it might be just above, Albania. You know, this is the kind of, we've got 31%. Children starving in this country, malnourished, UN figures. We've got people that leave primary school without the ability to really read or really write, and yet we're getting an education system that's changing for LGBT to be included. And when we say that, people don't understand that it's going to be like in your maths class. It's going to be 2 daddies and 3 lesbians. What does that make up?
Nightmare is the answer.
It is a nightmare, and that's it. It's forced indoctrination without the ability to question. Because if you question, you then go on the naughty step. If you question again, you're expelled.
And that is how it goes in school.
I see someone called Pems Het says Wales has a high proportion of public sector and high numbers in benefit, hence dependency culture. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah,
very fair.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. You know, that's exactly why they want to bring in the social or the living wage or whatever it's called, because they know that there's a lot of people who are dependent, and Labour's answers to anything seems to be chuck money at it. Yeah, you know, there's loads of people starving, chuck money at it. You know, chuck money and chuck, and that's all they do.
When you go round the streets of Swansea and where I live, you've got the highest heroin users and addiction in the country of Wales. You've got stabbings, you've got needles being left, you've got prostitution of minors, you've got it all. You've got charity shops, you've got Turkish barbers, you've got charity shops and
shisha bars, nail bars, chicken bars.
You've got there is no skills. The skills have gone. And that's the issue, David. How can you bring those skills back when the Welsh government do not want them?
And would Cardiff be the same as Swansea? Would it sim?
Well, absolutely right.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
There's certain areas of Cardiff that, you know, one of the things that's going on in Cardiff at the moment, we reported on recently, is a place called Cattays. There's a Facebook page for the students, and Cattays is a university, or there's a university there. And the thing that they've got at the moment is the girls being approached in the streets, being robbed, being followed home, followed into their houses. Obviously, all by national Welsh people, not. But
Yeah.
you know, that's exactly Cardiff is the epicenter of it. You know, it's you know, they call it Little Somalia. You know, and that's
and it's interesting, David. We had at the Battle of Waterloo, the most senior British Army officer was a Welshman, and he was killed at Waterloo. He was at Wellington's side, and he was called Picton, and he was wounded 2 days before Waterloo in the hip, but he refused to go off the battlefield, and he served at Waterloo, and he was unfortunately killed there.
Yeah.
Last year, they've boxed up and removed from a Grade 1 listed building his statue because I think it was the Somalian group of youngsters wrote into the council and complained that he was there.
No. There was nobody. If you remember, we put in a freedom of information request and asked how many complaints it received from 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Yeah, official complaints. There was nobody.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
But someone had a grumble to a politician who had then thought, oh, well, Black Lives Matter is saying we should take everything down, so let's do it.
Yeah.
And they did. And that, you know, we campaigned against that as well.
Yeah.
But again,
look, guys, we've come to the end of our time, but I have to say, I feel we could go on for another hour. It's so amazing to get these home truths spoken about what's happening in Wales. I'm not loving hearing it, but I'm really glad that, you know, you guys are doing the work that you're doing, Dan and Stan. And I think you know, it's probably worse than I thought, actually. And it would be very interesting. I would maybe love if you would be up for it, maybe to do another stream. I'd like to bring on one of my Irish friends because the things that you're saying resonate with me, so with what I hear from them. It's almost identical. It's scary that this country is in this condition. But all I would say is, and I know I'm speaking on behalf of the different streams here, make sure you're following Voice of Wales over in Gettr. Give them your support. Give them whatever help you can get. You can afford to give them to help the two guys here. You can see the battles they have. I mean, my God, it's not. You may not exactly be Picton, but you are in a similar war, I fear. And the people who are watching this all over the world, I know will. I know I can see from all the comments they've really enjoyed your time with us this evening. So look, guys, thank you both very much, Dan and Stan, for being here. I hope you'll come back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to everybody on the different streams. Appreciate all your comments. As always, the comments are brilliant. And I will be back on Wednesday evening, so do make sure you join me then at 8 o'clock. But that's it from me and Dan and Stan, the Voice of Wales. Good night, everybody.
Thank you very much, Nostar.
Nostar.